All right, it is a different day, as evidenced by my work shirt. I'm over here on Tuesday evening after work, which for the record, I'm not gonna, every single time it's a different day, I'm not gonna be like, hey, new day, because if I do that, you're gonna hear that like, 10 or 15 times over the course of one video. Maybe not quite that much, but a while. So, to alleviate that repetitiveness, I am just gonna breeze right over, and you can tell if I'm wearing a different shirt. It's a different day. Easy as that. But I am here in the shower. All oranged up. So much orange. So, curb is not set yet. I'm gonna do that in a minute. But I've got the Kerdi board, which is this stuff. See where it says Kerdi board right there? Got all the Kerdi board up, and because it's 9-foot ceilings, I do have that additional seam up there because this is an 8-foot tall board. Vertical there, and then here it's two 8-foots that are stacked on top of each other, so 4 foot wide to get to that seam. But yeah, it's all screwed up and ready for waterproofing. So I'll go over I'll touch on the waterproofing real quick before I get going on it. All right, so here is my roll of Kerdi membrane, and it is the same type of material as what's on top of the board and the pan and the curb and all that good stuff. This stuff is just like the one on the pan. It doesn't have the grid lines printed on it, which I didn't say, but the grid lines are obvious there for help in cutting, laying out the washers. They just for the record, they're of course 16 inches. The studs are 16 inches apart. But then vertically, it's every 30 centimeters, and they actually print it on there for you like that, so you can see how it's spread out like that. Really, really user-friendly system, if I haven't said that enough already. But basically what you do with this stuff, it's a 5-inch wide roll. It's 98 feet long, I think. It's about 100 foot long roll. But you overlap this with mortar with a very specific notch trowel, and this covers over every single joint like so. I will also cut a bunch of squares out of it because every single one of these screw and washer penetrations is a penetration through the waterproofing system that needs to get waterproofed. So you just roll this up and cut it into a whole bunch of squares that are 5 inches by 5 inches, and slap mortar over that and apply it. And then you use this stuff for all the flat joints and then inside corners as well. You'll see in a minute when I do that how I turn flat tape into an outside corner. You basically just fold it over and then rub it against a surface. For the heat from the friction of your running back and forth will help create a little bit of a crease right there and turn it into an inside corner joint essentially. And then they have fancy prefabricated pieces for the inside corners and the outside corners where the curb are, or where the curb is, excuse me. And there's also a few customized pieces that go around the mixing valve in the shower heads up here. So that is my next step. I'm gonna get this whole thing waterproofed. I don't remember if I said it already. One of the huge benefits with everything Schluter is that you can work on it immediately. You can lay tile. I could waterproof this and I could start laying tile immediately. I don't like to do that because for the obvious reason of there's going to be a lot of that Kerdi membrane, the Kerdi roll, Kerdi band over all this stuff. And just picture there being lots of squares of this stuff everywhere, a band like here. And if I'm trying to trowel mortar like this, if I'm dragging my trowel, all over this surface to spread mortar to lay tile, you have the potential, until that mortar is cured behind the Kerdi band, you have the potential to just catch an edge and move it around a little bit. So if possible, I prefer to waterproof the entire shower and then come back the next day, or in this case it'll be a couple days before I come back. And that way everything's dry and you don't have to worry about messing up any corners. You just make it perfect and then you can work on something else, which is probably what I'll do tonight. Get all the waterproofing done and then probably maybe work on putting down Ditra in this floor and work on some more floor tile or something. So that's the game plan. floor protection down here to protect the pan. Just some 1/4 inch MDF board that I ripped down. I think this is actually the first time I've done it this way. Typically we just use some sheets of OSB or plywood that we have laying around, but a sheet of this stuff is like 10 bucks and you can cut it to exactly the right size and protect your shower floor for the duration of the project. So I'm gonna start doing this going forward for normal work jobs too. But I have spent the last little bit here working on my tile layout because in my opinion, my humble opinion, what your finished tile layout looks like, and this goes for flooring, whether it's tile or anything, how your finished product looks shows how much time and effort you put into making sure that it was going to look good. Big example being, don't just start, use flooring for example, don't just throw a full course down in a corner and run with it without checking to see where your finish up's going to be, because you don't want a tiny little sliver somewhere, slivers anywhere, run in any direction. If you put a little bit of time and effort into the layout and the planning stages of things, your finished product will look so much better than if you just start throwing tile up on the wall and so on. So to that end, I have been working on drawing out, and this is not obviously a comprehensive layout, but you can get the idea. Obvious fact of that the niche is going right there. And so the idea is to what's called wrap the corner. And what that means is you want it to look like this full tile right here, and then you want it to look like the next tile, even though it's going around the corner, you want it to look like that is a full tile, not like a little bit here and then a little bit here. So like example being, this tile here, this niche is centered on that wall. This mark is the center of this wall. And if I just put a full tile like this one centered on this wall, it would end here and here. And so I would have a tile that was 5 inches here and 7.5 inches here. And that would be my finish up. That would be the look between this full tile and this full tile. And that would look really weird. So instead of doing that, it's actually slightly longer than a full tile. It's about an 1.5 inches longer to go from here to here. But I'll cut this piece out of one tile and this piece out of another tile. But when you stand back and look at it, it will look like it's a full tile and then another full tile right here wrapping the corner. Same thing over here. It's going to be full tile and then it's going to end right here. Then we're going to have another full tile to here, and then this is a full tile that is centered on this big long wall. And same thing, just continues to wrap around. And then on this wall, we're back to, on this course, the center of the wall is actually going to be a grout joint between the two tiles, just like it is on this side. So basically, the easy thing is this left side and this right side on a given course, and this is course number 5 in the layout, we'll have grout joints at the center of the wall, but on this wall and this wall, there will be tile that is centered on the wall. And then we'll have, of course, an outside corner joint that goes all the way up right here, and then we'll have a piece of trim right here, and a piece of trim right here. So that, once it is all on, it looks good, basically. That's all there is to it, really. And this entire thing has to reference off the niche being back there, being a full tile. So we always start, I did a lot of planning before before I started putting Kerdi board up on the walls, because I needed to know where to frame my niche at, which I've also gone ahead and thrown drywall up there. So you can't see it anymore, but you remember from earlier where it was. So everything always starts at the niche, and then you work your way around. The niche is, in this case, the niche wall is going to be one of the last walls I lay. I'm planning on starting on this one and this one back here, because I do not have the trim pieces to go up this corner right here. Don't have those yet. There, gotta order them. So I'm going to, also one of the advantages of doing it this way is you figure out where your cuts are going to be, and I can pre-cut this entire wall and have it all stacked up in order next to me, so that I'm not laying tile and when I get to a cut I have to go out and cut it, so on and so forth. So that is what I am going to get started on here. All right, so real quick, if you care to see how I did this, I just sketched out rough layout so I can know what tiles I'm cutting, basically figure out how to maximize use of tile. So here you go. This is just a real quick sketch of each course or each set of courses, because there's you know, odd number courses are all the same, even number courses are all the same. So that one is the niche wall. That's the wall. If this is if you're standing in the shower looking at the niche and then going right. So that's niche wall. That's the wall with the mixing valve on it. That's the long wall, and then that's the short wall on the right side, right there. So these are all basically rough numbers. They'll be fine-tuned when I actually go to cut them, but the number that is not circled is the length of that tile in that course, and then the circled number shows which tile that will come out of. So you can see I'm going to get my 14-inch tile for that wall and my 7.5-inch tile for that wall out of the same tile. So I already have, I hope you can hear okay with the fan running, those are my 14-inch tiles for my long wall right there. And then these leftovers right here will be, those are currently like 9 inches right now, and they'll get cut down to 7 and 8 or 7.5 inches for the wall next to it, and so on and so forth. Like both of those will come out of the same tile. The 18s and the 3 will come out of a tile. The 9.5 or 9, almost 10-inch tiles will just be, you know, both two halves of the same tile, and then 21 inches is obviously almost a full tile. They're 22.5 inches long. So simple stuff like that limits waste, which is obviously good. And yeah, I mean, that's the primary purpose for it, is limiting waste. You don't want to just start cutting and then realize you could have used material in a better fashion and you've wasted more material and you have to go back and get some. So that's always the goal, to make the best use possible out of the material you have.